Now, as I was saying that these three methods, they are in this order, as I was mentioning, that this is the easiest method to find the initial basic solution, but the the distance of the solution that we obtain from here to the actual optimal solution is more. Okay? So it is far from the optimal solution compared to the other two methods. Least cost method is slightly not, I mean, it's easy. I should not be saying it's easier than this or what. But then it takes a little bit more time. It has more things involved in it, and it is closer to the optimal solution compared to the northwest corner rule. And Vogel's approximation method gives you initial basic solution comparatively in more number of steps compared to these two methods, but it is the closest to the optimal solution. Most of the times what happens is that since we are solving manually, so when you come across problems, so you will see that Vogel's solution is the optimal solution. Sometimes it might happen that also. Okay, so that is why. So though it is more time consuming, it involves more number of steps to compute the initial solution, but it gives you the optimal solution faster than any other. Okay, so we'll discuss all these three steps one by one, and then we'll see. Okay, I think I'll start with an example also and then explain the steps so that you can write the steps in your own language. Okay, so the first method, which is your northwest corner method. Okay, now as the name says, see, let us take an example and then we'll see. Suppose I have a problem where I have got, I'll make the table directly. Is that fine? Supposing I have a problem where I have three sources, okay, and this one is S2, S3, and I have four destinations, D1, D2, D3, and D4. Supposing this is my problem, okay. And let me make the cells, right? Now the availabilities for each source will be writing in the last column, and the demands of each destination will be writing in the last row. Okay. Now, supposing the source S1 has only 7 units that it can supply, source S2 has 9 units that it can supply, and source S3 has 18 units that it can supply. The product can be anything, whatever you wish, you can put it up. Okay. Similarly, the first destination has 5 units, demand of 5 units. Second destination has a demand of 8 units. The third destination has a demand of 7 units. And the fourth destination has a demand of 14 units. Okay. Now, it takes 19 rupees to transport 1 unit of that product from source 1 to destination 1. Okay. Similarly, it takes 30 rupees to transport 1 unit of product from source 1 to destination 2. Okay. Similarly, the costs, per unit costs, or CIJs or AIJs, whatever you want to call it, they are written in the top corner of every cell. Okay. This is how it is written. This is 70, say. This is 30 again, 40, 60. Okay. Then from source 3, the respective costs are 40, 8, 70 and 20. Okay. Now these are the costs that are involved in transporting 1 unit of that product from the ith source to the jth destination. Okay. This is how the problem is written. Okay. Now we have been asked to provide a solution to this problem and give an optimal solution for this. So as I said, the first thing that you have to check is whether the given problem is a balanced transportation problem or not. Okay. So the very first thing that we are going to check is whether the sum total of the last column and the sum total of the last row, if they are equal or not. Okay. So as you can see, 7 plus 9 plus 18, this adds up to how much? 34. Okay. So just check up whether the last row also adds up to 34 or not. Yeah. So that means we are very clear that total supply, which is equal to the total demand, is equal to 34. Okay. So therefore, we can write, therefore, the given problem is a balanced transportation problem. Okay. Now, once we are very clear with that it is balanced, we are sure that it is balanced, then we have to find the initial basic solution. So as I said, we are now going to use the northwest corner rule to find the initial basic solution. Now, as the name itself says, northwest corner. Okay. So in this table, which is the northwest corner? नॉर्थवेस्ट कहाँ पे आएगा? ये टेबल तुम्हारे सामने है, right? So with the sense of directions, which one is the northwest corner?
D4.
The availability corner, the column.
Northwest.
Ma'am, S1, D1.
Sorry.
S1, D1. Okay. This corner, this cell is the northwest cell. Okay. So what we do is we start allocating from the northwest corner. Right? It's a simple method, the most simplest and logical method that we can allocate. Okay, you give it to a child, even he will start allocating things like that. So what we do is, in the northwest corner method, the first step says that we start with the cell at the upper left or the northwest corner of this table and allocate as much as possible. Now, as much as possible depends upon what? Depends upon the availability and the demand. Okay. Now, we are where? We are at S1, D1. That means the first source has to supply and the first destination has to take, right? How much can the source supply? 7 units. But how much does the destination need? 5 units. So obviously, whatever we allocate here is going to be the minimum of 5 and 7. जितना उसको चाहिए उतना ही तो देंगे ना. Though we have more, right? But what if supposing the demand had been 5 and the supply had been 4? Now obviously it needs more, but the source cannot give more. The source can give only up to an extent to what it has. Okay. So in that case, the minimum would have been, minimum of 4 and 5 would have been 4. So we would have supplied 4 units here. Okay. So basically what we are doing is that we are starting with the northwest corner of the table. We are allocating, that means we are starting with the cell number S1, D1. and we are allocating how much? The minimum of A1 and B1 to it. Whatever is the minimum of the two, we allocate. Okay. Now what I'll do is maybe I'll use a different color here so that we'll have the allocations written in a different manner. Okay. Now minimum of 5 and 7 is how much? 5. So that means we supply 5 units from here. Okay. So that means the first source will supply 5 units to the first destination. Okay. Now what has happened? The demand of the destination 1 has been met with. It doesn't need more. So that means it doesn't need any other supply from S2 and S3. So that means we are not making, I'm just putting a cross here because we are not making any allocations here. You may leave it blank also. It is just for our understanding that I have put a cross here. Because this 5 has been met with. This is complete now. Okay. So this is complete, all. Okay. But source 1 had 7 units with it. It has supplied only 5. Okay. So that means it is left with 2 more units that it can supply. Okay. So it is not 0 as it is. It is not 0, 0 case. Right. So once this cell has been filled with as much as possible, we move on. Okay. Now, to move on, which rule are we going to follow? Like in this case, the situation was that the demand has been met, but the source still has availability. Okay. So we move to the right. That means we move to the cell 1, 2. Okay. The situation could have been the other way around also. That means the situation could have been that the source is exhausted, but the demand is still left to be met with. Like the example when I said it could have been 4 here and 5 here. So we would have supplied 4 in this cell. So the source is exhausted, but then the demand is still left. It is not met with. So in that case, we would have moved vertically down. So in this case, we are moving horizontally to the next cell. In that case, we would have moved vertically down. Okay. So what are we doing? We are starting with the first cell, the left corner. We are allocating as much as possible, which is going to be the minimum of A1 and B1. Okay. So if the allocation made is equal to B1, we move horizontally to the next cell. But if the allocation made is equal to A1, we move vertically down to the next cell. Is this clear? So I can repeat it again if you're writing somewhere, that if the allocation made in this cell S1, B1 is equal to B1, then we move horizontally to the next cell. But if the allocation made in this cell is equal to A1, then we move vertically down to the next cell. Okay. And make the adjustments accordingly, the way I have done. Okay. Now, since we have moved to S1, D2, now see what is going to happen. In this cell, we have to choose between 2 and 8. Okay. Now, what is the minimum? The rule remains the same. We have to allocate the minimum of AI and BJ, whichever cell we are in. Okay. See, we are in the cell 1, 2 now. Okay. So that means we have to compare between A1 and B2. Okay. So we have to choose the minimum of A1 and B2. Now, the minimum of A1 and B2 is how much? 2. So we allocate 2 units here. Okay, in fact, we circle them also so that we are able to identify our basic cells immediately from the table. Now, the moment we allocate 2 here, this gets filled up. Okay, that means source 1 has nothing else to give. But the demand of the second destination is not met with completely because it needed 8 units and we had supplied only 2 units. So we still have 6 more units that can be supplied to this destination, right? So in this case, see what has happened. we have made an allocation here, which was minimum of A1 and B2. And since the allocation made here is equal to A1, so as I mentioned in the next step, the next cell to move on is vertically down. So we'll come here. So that means the source cannot supply anything to D3 and D4. Okay, so that means the first source can supply only to the first and the second destination. That's all. Okay, now we come to this cell, which is S2D2. Okay, so now again, now we have to choose the minimum from A2 and B2. Why? Because my cell is 2, 2. Okay, so it has to be A2 and B2. Now we have to choose the minimum of 9 and 6. So which is the minimum out of the two? Obviously 6. So we supply 6 here. This gets filled, but the source can still supply 3 more units. Okay. So now in this case, again, the allocation made is equal to B2. So we move horizontally. Okay. So we move horizontally to the next cell. So next cell means we are now in the cell 2, 3. So we have to choose the minimum of A2 and B3, which is the minimum 3. So we allocate here. So this gets exhausted, but this still left with 4 more units to supply. Okay. So now, since the minimum has turned out to be equal to A2, so we move vertically down. Okay. So when you move vertically down, you are in this cell. Now in this cell, you have to choose the minimum of 4 and 18. So how much do you supply? Oh, this gets exhausted, but then this is left with 14 more units. So we come here. Now, see. Now you see, they are exactly equal. The availability and the demand. Okay, they are exactly equal. This will happen because your problem was a balanced transportation problem. So you'll end up with this. Okay. So now that means we started with the northwest corner and we ended with the southeast corner. Okay, so we start with the first cell or the first box of this table and we end with the last box of this table. Okay, or the last cell of this table, and we have made the allocations. So as I said, it's a very logical way of finding the choosing your initial basic solution and then moving on with it. Okay, now once we have made these allocations, they will be our initial basic feasible variables. So your variables, now this 5 is what? This is your x11. What is this? x12. So basically your x11 is 5, x12 is 2, x13 is 0, and x14 is 0. So they are non-basic cells, right? Similarly, the next basic cell here is x22, then x23, then x33, and x34. Now, so how many basic cells? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay. So we have made allocations in how many cells? 6. Now see, how much was your M, the number of sources? 3. How much was your N, the number of destinations? 4. So how much should have been N plus N minus 1? 4 plus 3 minus 1, which is 6. Okay. So basically, your number of basic cells is exactly equal to M plus N minus 1. Okay. So definitely this is the case of a non-degenerate solution. So we are going to get some solution out of it. Optimal or not, that needs to be tested later on. But definitely we'll get some solution out of it. Okay. So this is what the northwest corner all deals about. Now, the thing is that what will be the cost of transportation if we follow this method? Okay. Now see from here. 19 was the per unit cost involved in transporting 1 unit of the product from source 1 to destination 1. But how many have we transported? 5. So out of this, the total contribution towards the cost function of this transportation is going to be 19 into 5. Okay. So that means the total cost, can you quickly calculate it? Because I'll be needing the total number. Then only we'll be able to compare, okay, with the other methods. So the minimum cost in this case is going to be 19 into 5 plus, what was the second allocation that we made in the second cell, which will be 13 to 2 plus 13 to 6 plus 14 to 3 plus 17 to 4 plus 20 into 14. Is that right? Now, can you quickly calculate it? How much would it be? Hmm?
On 1015.
1015. That's right. So that becomes your total cost of transportation. Okay. That becomes your total cost in this case, which is how much? 1015. Okay, now remember this number, because when we move on, I'll take the same problem and we'll compare the cost with the other methods. Now, but is this northwest corner method clear to you?
Yes,
And it's the easiest of all, right? So very logically, you are starting with one end and proceeding on to the another end by allocating as much as possible. Okay. Now let's move on to the least cost method. I'll have to make the table again, but doesn't matter. Okay. So same problem. So then only we'll be able to appreciate the difference. So quickly, we can have 3 sources with us, and we had 4 destinations with us. I'm sorry. Right. This. Yeah. These will be my availabilities and these will be my demands. Okay. Now what were the costs? Can we quickly write it? 19, 30. How much was it? 50? 10. Then next was 70, 30, 40, 60. Then we have 40, 8, 70, and 20. Okay. The availabilities were 7, 9, 18, and the demands were 5, 8, 7, and 14. So that the total was 34. So we are back to the same problem. Okay. Now, the thing is that though northwest corner, as I said, is the easiest and most logical also to a certain extent, but then somebody said ki if we are, the ultimate objective of transportation problem is to minimize the cost of transportations, right? And while making allocations using the northwest corner, we did not consider costs at all. See, we did not bother what per unit costs of transportation from the ith source to the jth destination were. We simply neglected them. Okay? We were just bothered about the availabilities and the demands. So based on that, we made the allocations. The cost was not at all considered while making these allocations. So somebody said, why not consider cost also, and then make the allocations. So that is why this method, which we call as the least cost method or the LCM, okay, which makes the allocations, but at the same time keeps in mind the costs of transportation also in mind somewhere. Okay. So what the least cost method says is that, number one, select the cell with the lowest cost in the whole matrix. Okay, that is your first thing that you are going to do. In the whole transportation table that you have with you, you select a cell that has the minimum cost. Okay, now in this problem, the cell with the minimum cost is which cell?
S3D2.
S3D2.
D2, right? This has the minimum cost 8 in it, right? So we select this cell with the minimum cost and then use the logic of northwest corner. Matlab, allocate as much as possible in this cell. Okay, and what is going to be the amount of allocation? Definitely it is going to be the minimum of the availability and the demand, right? So I have picked up this cell. That means I have to choose, since my cell is S3D2, that means I have to choose between A3 and B2, right? Out of A3 and B2, the minimum is how much? 8. I cannot allocate more than 8 to it. Okay. So once I have allocated 8 to it, that means this demand is completely met with, but this source will be left with 10 more units to supply. Okay. Now, depending upon whichever has been exhausted, that means either the demand or the availability, whatever has been exhausted, we eliminate that row or column. In the sense that if the demand has been exhausted, we eliminate that column. And if the source availability has been exhausted, then we eliminate that row from that table. Now, elimination would mean that any cost occurring in that column or row will not be considered for further analysis. So in a way, because like in this case, since I have exhausted 8 here, so what have I done basically is I have exhausted the demand of second destination. So that means I need not consider my second column at all from my further analysis. So I have eliminated that column. So I have, in a way, I have striked off that column from my table. Is that okay? Now, come to the next allocation. We have to make the next allocation. So again, since we are at every stage keeping the costs in mind, so definitely at every stage, whatever is left with, we have to choose a cell with the minimum cost and then start making the allocations. Is this clear? Now, once I've made the first allocation, now I am left with like total, I had 7 cells. Total, I had how many? 12 cells. So out of which 3 have been exhausted. So from the remaining cells, again, I choose a cell that has the minimum cost. Okay. Now, what is the next minimum cost here? To S1, D4. D4. 10 is the minimum, which corresponds to S1, D4. Okay. So we come to this cell now. Now, again, we make an allocation, which is going to be the minimum of A1 and B4, right? So how much is the minimum here? 7. So we make an allocation of 7 units here. So now this gets exhausted, but then this is still left with 7 more units. Now, since the availability has been exhausted, so I will strike off the row from this table. Is this clear? Okay. Now, from the remaining, which is the next minimum cost?
S3D4.
S3D4, the cost with 20, right? So we come here. Now it has to be the minimum of whatever is left out. Okay. So it has to be the minimum of 10 and 7. So we allocate 7 here. This gets exhausted and this still has 3 more units to be supplied. Right. So again, what has exhausted? The column. So we strike off this column. Now compare between 70, 40, 40, 70. Okay. Which is the minimum? What is the next minimum cost here?
Ma'am, 40.
40, right? But 40 occurs at 2 places. You know, I can allocate either in S2D3, that means either in this cell, or in S3D1. In both the cases, the cost involved is 40 per unit. Am I right or not?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So now how to decide where to make the allocation, right? So what we do is we choose a cell where maximum allocation can be made. See, if I choose S3D1, that means the choice of allocation, or if I choose S3D1, then the allocation that can be made would be the minimum of 3 and 5. What it would be? 3, right? But if I choose S2D3, then the allocation made would be the minimum of 9 and 7. Right? So what would that be? 7. So definitely 7 is bigger than 3. So that means I can make more allocation if I choose this cell instead of S3D1. Okay. So that means in case there is a tie, then choose a cell where maximum allocations can be made. Okay. So in this case, since maximum allocations can be made in the cell S2D3, so I will try to choose the allocation here. Okay. So this gets exhausted and this gets left with 2 units to supply and the third column gets eliminated. Right. Now you see, you have a choice only between 70 and 40. Right. Now, again, out of these two, minimum is 40 and I can make an allocation only of 3 units because minimum of 3 and 5 is 3 here. So it gets left with 2 and this 3 gets exhausted and the last row also gets eliminated. So you will see that now you are left with only one cell where allocation can be made, and that too the allocation will be equal to the demand and supply which is left. So we make 2 units here so that this also gets exhausted and this also gets exhausted. Is this clear? How to make the allocations here? Okay, I'll repeat the procedure again. We begin with the minimum cell. We begin with the cell that has the least cost, and we start making the allocations as much as possible in that cell. So after making the allocations, depending upon whether the availability or the demand has been exhausted, we eliminate that particular row or that particular column from the table and then repeat this procedure. That means repeat the procedure of choosing the minimum cost from the remaining cells available, make the allocations as much as possible, and proceed on till all the allocations have been made. Okay. In case of a tie, choose a cell where maximum allocations can be made. Is that okay? So these are, now you can see your basic cells have changed. If you compare the table from the northwest corner and this table, your basic cells have changed. Or even if the basic cell is same, like for example, S3D4, though it was a basic cell in the earlier table also, but the amount to be allocated or the value which that basic variable is taking is different. In the earlier case, X34 was 14, whereas in this case, X34 has turned out to be 7. Okay, so your allocation has changed basically. So if you quickly compute the cost, the minimum cost in this table is going to be 10 into 7 plus 70 into 2 plus 40 into 7 plus 40 into 3 plus 8 into 8 plus 20 into 7. Now, can you quickly compute? कितना आ रहा है ये?
814.
814. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Right? So you can see for yourself now, we have the same problem. Okay? But see, this was the cost when we use the northwest corner. Okay? This has reduced to 814 when we have used the least cost method. Okay? So definitely it has reduced. So which one is better? Definitely least cost. And logically also, because at least it has taken costs into consideration and then making the allocations. Whereas northwest corner did not consider the costs at all. It just started with one end and then started making the allocations, and then we moved on to it. Okay. So obviously, if you're, once we know the method and we are asked to solve, see, the problem will not say, the question in the exam is not going to say use which method. The question is just going to say solve the given transportation problem to find the minimum cost. Okay, so that means you have to judge which method to use while making the allocations. Okay, so accordingly, once if I know only these two methods, obviously I'll start with least cost because I know it's going to give me a better cost compared to northwest. So definitely, see, imagine if had you used northwest corner and if you would have tested the optimality, then definitely it's not optimal because by using least cost only I am getting a better cost. Okay, so definitely it would not have been optimal. We would have used the upgradation procedure to reach the optimal. That means some basic cells would have become non-basic and some non-basic would have become basic, at least to reach this stage of least cost method. Okay, so again one step would have increased there, right? Whereas if we start with least cost method, probably this turns out to be optimal also. Okay, so definitely we start with the process of finding an initial basic solution which leads us to an optimal solution quickly compared to the any other method. Okay, now Vogel came up with another method. He said, why just consider cost alone? No? In fact, you know, the Vogel's method, we call it, though we call it as the Vogel's approximation method, some books also call it as the penalty method. Okay, because Vogel, what he said was, why consider the least cost alone? He said, let us consider the costs that would be equal to, the cost that would have been incurred if allocations in certain cells with minimum unit transportation cost were missed out somewhere. Okay, that means what he means to say is that instead of minimizing the costs in these cells, try to minimize the penalty that we will pay if we miss out the minimum cost. Okay, so what will that means is basically, see, it's like my northwest corner gave me the minimum cost as 1015. The least cost method gave me the total cost as 814, right? Now, that means the choice of these cells that we considered in the northwest corner were the cells where we missed out on, on choosing the cells. We would have chosen certain cells which we did not while calculating the northwest corner. So probably because we missed out those cells, so we are paying the penalty. Penalty means the difference between 1015 and 814, right? So that difference is the penalty that we are paying. So he said, let us minimize that penalty. Automatically, if we are minimizing the penalty, that means we are minimizing the difference between the initial solution, initial cost, not the initial cost, we are minimizing the cost of the objective function obtained by using the initial variable and the optimal cost. So if we minimize, it's like, you are standing somewhere in between. You have to reach the destination somewhere on the top. So you are trying to minimize this distance with you. If we are able to minimize that penalties involved or the cost involved there, automatically that solution would be the best possible solution. So what the Vogel's approximation method does it computes the penalties for each row and each column. That means it computes the penalties for each source and each destination. And keeping in mind the penalties, we compute the minimum transportation cost involved. Okay. We compute the minimum costs involved. Now coming back to the same problem, how to that now because it involves computing the penalties before we start making the allocations, or the penalties along with allocations. So what happens is that most of the times this method turns out to be a little tedious, right? But because it not only involves the least cost but also minimizing the penalties involved, definitely it is the best possible method to obtain the initial feasible solutions or the initial basic solutions, right? So for this case, I think you will have to sort of understand the steps more clearly here. But I'll try to make you write as much as possible, or I'll try to write myself also this time. Okay. Let me, because I'll be, but when you make a table now, leave enough space on the right and below the table so that we can compute the penalties for rows and columns each. Okay, so my tables are going to be like this now. I'll make S1, S2, S3. These were the three sources. And these are the four destination. D3, D4. Okay. These are going to be the same problem I'm taking. I'm not changing the problem. The demands, and these are going to be my availabilities. Okay. Now the same problem. With the costs as 19, 30, 50, 10, right? And the total availability for the first source was 7 units. Then it's going to be 70, 30, 40, 60, 2, then 48, 70 and 20 with 18, you know, as the total availability, and demands being 5.
Ma'am, the availability for source 2 is 9.
Oh,
Total
9. I'm sorry. Yeah. 9. 5, 8, 7 and 14. Am I right?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So the total is 34. Right. So we are going to, why I have left the row here? Because here we are going to compute the penalties for each row, and here we are going to compute the penalties for each column. Okay. So that's why I have left them like this. Is that okay? So this was my transportation table. Okay. Now, coming back to the first step, okay, of Vogel's method. It says that calculate the penalties for each row or column. Do you want me to write, or are you writing? I'll have to actually, switch between the slides. That will be the only problem, though I can write for you and I want to write for you. Okay, the step number 1 here, Vogel's approximation method, is going to be to calculate the penalties for each row and also for columns simultaneously by taking the difference between the smallest and the next smallest. See, remember this. Smallest and the next smallest unit transportation cost in the same row or column. Okay, this is what we are going to do. This is your first step. That means we are going to compute the penalties. How? By taking the difference. Penalties we are going to compute for each row and each column separately, right? And how are we going to compute the penalties? By taking the difference between the smallest and the next smallest unit cost of transportation involved. Okay, now let's see the first row. What is the smallest cost? 10. What is the next smallest cost? 19. So the difference between 19 and 10 is how many units? 9. So it becomes the first penalty here. Is this clear? Okay. Similarly, for the second, it's 30 and 40. So 40 minus 30 is 10, right? Then for the third, it's 20 and 8, which is 12. Similarly, we compute the penalties for column as well. Okay. Now, for the first column, the minimum is 19 and the next smallest is 40. So 40 minus 19 is how much?
21.
Hmm?
21.
21. In the next, now, it says smallest and the next smallest. So it clearly says, so in case you have two smallest, it doesn't make any difference. Or even if you have next two, like in this case, the smallest is 8, right? And what is the next smallest? 30, for which we have two cells. Doesn't matter to us. Even had it been that we have two 8s, we would have considered accordingly. Okay. So 8 and 30. So 30 minus 8 is how much? 22, right? Then the next is 50 minus 40, which is 10. And then 20 minus 10 is again 10. Okay. So this is your first step where we compute the penalties. Okay. Now, the next step is to choose that row or column that has the maximum penalty. Okay. So that is your step number 2. So if you want, you can write it. Select the row or column. I'm speaking out now, I'm not writing. Select the row or column that has the maximum penalty and allocate as much as possible in the cell that has the least cost. Is this clear? That means we are selecting that row or column based on the maximum penalty, but we are allocating based on the minimum cost in that row or column, whichever is being selected here. Okay. Now, in this table, if you look, what is the maximum penalty here? In the first step, where we have computed the first set of penalties, the penalties are respectively
Can you repeat that statement, please?
the one that I just spoke. Yeah, I said select the row or column that has the maximum penalty, okay, and allocate as much as possible in the cell having the least cost in that selected row or column. Is this clear? Okay, that means what are we doing? First of all, out of all the penalties that we have calculated, we are going to choose the one that is maximum. Is that okay? Now, what are the penalties that we have calculated for this particular problem? In the first set of penalties, they are 9, 10, 12, 21, 22, 10, and 10. Right? How much is the maximum?
22.
22. That means for us, and 22 happens to be for a particular column, right? So that means when I said select the row or column with the largest penalty. So in this case, it is a column. I have selected a column that has the largest penalty, right? Now in this column, look for a cell that has the minimum cost. And how much is that? This cell, S3D2. Okay? We allocate as much as possible here. Now, see, remember one thing. Allocations depend upon availabilities and demands. Allocations have to be the minimum of that row and column availabilities. That means if I am talking of SI, DJ, then it has to be the minimum of AI and BJ there. Okay, so like in this case, I'm talking of S3D2. So it has to be the minimum of A3 and B2. That is the best possible allocation that can be made. Okay. But where are we making the allocations? That depends upon the method that we have chosen. Okay. So in this case, we have chosen the maximum penalty, which is 22. That means I've selected the column where I'm going to make an allocation. I've selected that cell in that column which has the minimum cost, and I am making the maximum allocation that is possible here. So it is going to be the 8 units in this case, right? So that means this has got exhausted and this is still left with 10 units that we can supply. Okay. Now, that is my next step. We adjust the supply and demand. That's what we have done. We have adjusted in the sense that we strike off, which is exhausted, and we just write the remaining balance, which can be, further allocated. So we adjust the supply and demand, and we cross out the satisfied row or column. Okay. Now, satisfied means exhausted. Okay. So this is your third step. Adjust the supply and demand and cross out the satisfied row or column. Okay. Now, in this case, my column has been satisfied, so I will in fact, cross out this column. And this will not be considered for the remaining allocations. That means no penalties would be allocated here for the remaining things. Okay. Right. So what have we done? We adjust the supply and demand and we strike off the satisfied row or column, and any row or column with zero supply or demand should not be used in computing future penalties. That means whatever demand has been striked off, like in this case, a column has been striked off, it could have been a particular row has been striked off. So whichever has been striked off would not be considered for further evaluation of penalty. See, what I mean to say here is that if I have striked off this column, then the 30s here that are written will not be considered for computing the penalties in the respective procedures, in the respective steps or the next step, subsequent steps. Okay. So now we'll repeat the steps 1, 2, and 3 again. That means we'll again compute new set of penalties and then we'll make the allocations. Okay. Like now if we compute the new set of penalties for this row, for this thing, now see. Now I have to again repeat the procedure, minimum cost and the next minimum. So in this case, it still happens to be 10 and 19. So my penalty, next set of penalties still happens to be 9 here. Okay. Similarly here now. See, now what is the minimum now? It's not 30. It is not going to be considered. Why? Because this column has been striked off. Is that clear now? So what is the minimum? Now the minimum has to be chosen out of 70, 40 and 60. So which one is minimum now? 40. The next minimum, 60. So the penalty turns out to be 20 now. So in the earlier case, it was 10 because we had 40 and 30 with us. Is this step clear now? Okay. Similarly, in the next one now. Again, since it has been striked off, so 8 does not come into the picture now. So we are left with the minimum to be chosen from 40, 70 and 20. So which happens to be 20. The next minimum happens to be 40. So the penalty is still 20. Okay. Now, similarly, we compute the penalties for columns. The first column, nothing has been striked off. So penalty still remains 21. Now, the second column has been exhausted. So we will not consider the penalty here. The third column, definitely the penalty remains the same. And the fourth column also, the penalty remains the same. Is this clear? So we are repeating our step number 1. right? Now repeat your step number 2. That means choose the maximum penalty or choose the row or column that has the maximum penalty. In this case, the maximum penalty happens to be how much? 21, right? So that means we have to make allocations in the first column. In the first column, look for a cell that has the minimum cost, which happens to be 19 here. Okay, and we make as much allocations as possible, which means minimum of 7 and 5. So which happens to be 5 in this case. Okay, so now we adjust the supplies and demands and we strike off whatever row or column that has been exhausted. Is this clear?
Yes,
Because we have to repeat.
Yes.
We have to repeat this process till all the allocations have been made. Okay, that means we compute another set of penalties now. So now see, because these two columns have been striked off, so we have to choose only between 50 and 10. So which makes the penalty as 40. Similarly, the next penalty happens to be 20. The next penalty happens to be 50. Now, coming to columns, the first column is exhausted, the second column is exhausted. So we don't consider the penalties there. Whereas these penalties, they remain the same because nothing was striked off in these columns. Right. Now, again, choose the cell that has the maximum penalty to it and which happens to be 50. So it's a row now, right? Now, in this row, I just have to choose between 70 and 20. So which one has the minimum cost? 20. So we make the adjustments. We make the allocations as much as possible, which happens to be the choice between 10 and 14. So it will make me, we'll allocate 10 units to it. We adjust the supplies and demands as we have done earlier. Now, in this case, a particular row has been satisfied, right? So there is nothing more which the third supply can supply. So we strike off this row. Okay, and then we repeat step numbers 1, 2, and 3 again. Okay, so it's now 50 and 10, which makes it 40, 40 and 60 makes it 20. Now come to the computation of penalties for columns. Now this column we don't need. If I look at this column, it's still 50 and 40. So the penalty is still 10. But in this column, see, 20 has been exhausted. This row has been striked off now. So I have to compute the penalty between 60 and 10. So it turns out to be 50, right? So again, we repeat the procedure. We look for, oh yeah, and of course, this was not to be computed. So now we look for the maximum penalty, which again comes out to be 50 in this case. We look for a cell that has the minimum cost, which happens to be 10 here. And the allocation that has to be made will be a choice between 2 and 4. So we allocate 2 units to it. My supply and demands, they get adjusted. And my first row gets exhausted. Is that okay? Now we repeat the procedure. I don't need to compute the penalty here. So in my second row, the penalty is still 20. I don't need to compute the penalty here. No penalty required here. No penalty required here. Now, look at this. The first row has got exhausted. The penalty here is 40 and here is 60. Okay. So we choose the one with the maximum penalty, which happens to be 60. We have only one cell left here where allocation can be made, and that has to be a choice between 2 and 9. So we allocate 2 here. So this gets exhausted. We are left with 7 units. Now, out of this, you need not compute the penalties because you are left with only one unmarked cell here. Okay? And the allocations that are to be made here are exactly equal to the ones that we are left with. So we allocate 7 here, and we are done with the all supplies and demands all met with. That means all available products supplied, all destination demands satisfied. Okay. Now count the allocations that you have made. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, equal to your n plus n minus 1. Okay. So if you compute the cost now, the minimum cost, see again, your basic cells have changed, definitely. And even if the cell is same, the value has changed. Okay. So your minimum cost in this case, I think it's going to be 19 into 5, which was there in Northwest also, I believe, plus 10 into 2, plus 40 into 7, plus 16 into 2, plus 8 into 8, plus 20 into 10. So how much is it? It's
779.
779. That's right. Okay. So if you just compare the 3 now, if I just move up and where we had written all the 3 costs, you will see that this is even better. I mean, this cost is even less than the least cost also. That was 814. So that means even 814 was not optimal. Though it was better than Northwest Corner, but still it was not the optimal. That means because by using another method of finding the initial cost, we have obtained another value, 779, which has come from Vogel's approximation. So I said in the beginning, depending upon their ease, we do one by one, but they all fall into the category depending upon their efficiency. Which one is better? Definitely, this is better than this, right? But then this is so far the best possible method to find the initial solution. See, best possible because this will lead us to our optimal solution more quickly compared to the others. Why? Because it is minimizing the distance of the optimal Z and the Z at your initial level. So that difference is being minimized in this method. So that definitely it will lead us there. So it had more of a, I mean, the logic behind this was more of a geometrical approach also, and that is what Vogel's is known for, because he gave us this method. So that is why this Vogel's method is the best used so far. But then, as I said, it's slightly tedious than the previous 2 methods. But then I think it's better to do more effort at the initial stage than to do at the later stage. Why? Because see, the thing is that when you are checking for optimalities, see, simplex method mein bhi kya karte hain? If the initial table is optimal, we stop Otherwise, we move to the next optimal table. Now, how do we do that? We look for all Zj minus Cjs, right? If the most negative Zj minus Cj becomes the entering variable, if they're all more than or equal to 0, we stop. So same logic will be applied here. We'll have to compute Zj minus Cjs, but now we don't have a proper simplex table with us. But every variable, every cell is one of the variable. So could be basic, could be non-basic. So we have a set of 6 basics and remaining 6 non-basic cells. So if it is not optimal, that means some non-basic will become basic, right? Like if you just look at the Vogel's table that we have just written here, yeah. So in a way, we have 6 basic cells, which happen to be, you see, X11 is basic, X14 is basic, X23 is basic, X24 is basic, X32 is basic, and X34 is basic. But if I look at X12 and X13, they're non-basic, right? If they're optimal, fine. That is the best thing with me. But if it is not optimal, that means out of the remaining non-basic cells, one of them will become basic. But definitely my number of basic cells cannot be more than 6. So definitely out of these 6 basics, one of them will become non-basic. And how do we decide that? Depending upon Zj minus Cjs. No, the most negative Zj minus Cj enters. So that means a similar kind of terms or a similar kind of a concept would need to be introduced here that would help us decide which basic variable would enter and which non-basic variable would leave the which non-basic would enter the basic and which basic would leave the basis. Then again we compute everything. We check for the optimality. If it is optimal, we stop. Otherwise, we keep on upgrading the solution till an optimality is reached. Okay, so this is sort of the second step that we have completed while solving a transportation problem. We check if the problem is balanced or not. If it is balanced, we proceed on. If it is not balanced, we balance the unbalanced transportation problem. That is your step number 1. In step number 2, we find the initial basic solution. That initial basic solution could be obtained by using any of the 3 methods, either northwest corner or least cost or Vogel's approximation. And we have learned how to find the initial basic solution by using any of the 3 methods. Now the next step would be to check for optimality. Okay, if it's optimal, we stop. If not, then we upgrade. Okay, so that I will cover up in my next class. Okay, I will stop this class here only and